For the second half. Before I begin, I want to talk about the National Colony Loss Survey, which I attached in the chat. This is a survey that's been around for really the past 10, 15 years, I believe. I think they started the survey right around 2006 when beekeepers started experiencing really high colony losses. And so this year, Texas A&M Extension is working with the survey to get and analyze any data from Texas beekeepers. So last year we only had 40 beekeepers in Texas that took the survey, and so my goal is to get, I mean, at least a few hundred, maybe to even 1,000 beekeepers. So I think, if we can take the survey, share with beekeepers across the state, we can get really great turnout. And once I get all the information for the Texas beekeepers, I can share you more information about colony losses. And it's really important for a lot of different reasons. We have been experiencing or seeing high colony losses across the U.S., especially for commercial industry. But we haven't surveyed beekeepers within the state of Texas. And so it's really important for us to know what are the colony losses and maybe potential reason for colony losses so, we can better support and maybe find some solutions for beekeepers. And so, I am going to operations, going to beekeepers and collecting sampling to try to figure out what's happening, what's really important to see what the colony losses are. And so feel free to take the survey. It takes about 10 minutes, and this is probably the most important survey you can do. It allows us to look, not only within the state, but see how Texas compares to other states. So I'll send up a fall email with the survey, but we only have about a month to take the survey, only in the month of April. And so we only have a short 1 month window to take the survey. So feel free to share with your local club or any other beekeepers to really try to get as much participation as possible. So let me share my presentation. Okay, so for this part, we're going to talk about mentoring and communication. So, Charlie talked about mentoring a lot in the first part of the session, but now we'll talk specific about volunteer hours and volunteer credits. So one thing we are going to change is we're going to change it from credits to hours because if you look at the public service credits and how it's been run for the past 10 years, um, it doesn't really account for how much time you invest into each credit. So for example, if you mentor a beekeeper for, 8 months out of the year, you only get 1 credit, but you also get 1 credit if you give a talk to a local bee club. Now, if you've ever mentored a beekeeper before or done any type of mentoring, you do understand that it takes, 8, 9, 10 hours throughout a year to mentor a beekeeper, whereas a presentation might take you 1 hour. And so I think really switching from the credits to an hour system is really the best way to really track how much work you're putting into the program. And so we'll be switching everything from credits to hours, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. Now, for everybody that's in this 10-week course, you guys are sort of grandfathered into the old system. And so you have sort of the option of doing the credit system, which is currently on the website. But if you want to transition to the new hour system, you're more than welcome to do that. So, this is gonna be kind of a slow transition because there's a lot of beekeepers that have been part of the program, maybe the currently advanced level, master craftsman level, and so they're probably gonna be grandfathered into the old system. But I want to talk to you about some of the changes we're making. And, these aren't set in stone yet. We've talked to the board and we've gotten approval from the board, but we'd love to hear any of your input. And so, after this, or if you have any questions, feel free to leave these in the chat so we can talk more about how we can improve the system. But one thing we like with the program is we want to have sort of diversity. We don't want people to just get all their credits or all their hours with one category. We want them to get these hours with multiple categories. And one way to get around that is we want beekeepers to get hours in sort of three major categories. So one is continued education. So what this means is beekeepers are attending their local club meetings. Beekeepers are attending the state meetings or national meetings. Beekeepers are attending courses like you guys are in right now, or beekeepers are attending workshops and things like that. So basically, you guys are getting continued education. So we'll have hours required for continued education. And then for education and outreach, these mean that you're going out to, schools or FFA or 4-H to educate people about bees and pollinators. And so this would be kind of similar to what the current system's like, where you get to give a presentation to a bee group or maybe a non-beekeeping group and get hours that way. And one thing I'll talk about the education outreach is we'll talk about how we're going to add prep time, so how much time it takes you to prep your demonstration or presentation, and how much time it takes you to travel to that location. So maybe you're traveling a few hours away to give a bee talk. Well, we'll take that as your public service hours because you're taking a lot of time out of your day to travel to local clubs or travel to the organizations and do these type of meetings. And then finally, service. So service to the beekeeping community. So whether you're serving on a committee for your local club, or whether you're going to a bee booth at the state meeting, a regional meeting, the livestock show, or if you're providing service to your beekeepers, maybe doing like a free bee removal, or you're working to educate beekeepers. These are all things that can fall under service. And so what we'll do is we'll have a certain number of hours you need to get for each of these three categories. So what is continuing education? So these are activities that help you learn and grow your beekeeping knowledge. And so this 10-week course would fall under that continued education hour course. And so hours are really based on the actual length of the session or event. So if you attend a workshop, webinar, online course, or read Beacon material, these would fall under the continued education. Now, this course is, a total of 30 hours. And so if you take this course, you've already gotten all your hours for continued education. But we do encourage you to go to the state meeting. Now, state meetings are multiple days, and so the hours that you get at a state meeting would depend on how many sessions you're going to and how long the sessions are. So for a state meeting, if you attend 5 sessions and they're 1 hour each on day one, you get 5 hours for that session. And then for day two, if you attend 3 sessions for an hour, you get 3 hours that way. And so you'd have a total of 8 hours. If you attend your local club meetings every single month throughout the year, then you get an hour or 2 hours, depending how long the session is, for each time you attend a local club meeting. If you watch one of our webinars or Texas Bee Supply webinars or any type of national webinars, these all count as hours. And one thing I love about the hour system is, each session, each workshop, each course is different in length. And so you can basically track down how many hours you're actually putting into continued education. So here are some options, right? So you're attending a workshop, you're attending a B school or a regional conference. Now, we'll have workshops throughout the state for Texas A&M Extension Service, and sometimes these workshops can be 1 hour long, sometimes it can be 4 hours long, and so it allows a lot of flexibility for how many sessions you're attending and how long you're getting that continued education for. Let's say you're attending a B school, for example. So maybe the Central Texas B school or the Brazos County B school, for example. These are all things that you can track, and some of these can be an entire day. So if you're attending sessions for 6 straight hours, you can still get the credits for those, or maybe like a regional conference or a state conference. If you're watching an education webinar, so most webinars are about an hour long, so you can track your continued education for an hour webinar or an hour workshop, things like this. If you're attending a state or national beekeeping conference, so maybe you're attending the Texas Beekeeper Association State Conference, or maybe going to the summer clinic in June, these would all count as you continue education hours. But also attending your local club. We always encourage you to find a local club and participate any way possible. And you don't have to go to all the meetings, even though we encourage it. But if you need 5 hours, you might want to attend, 5 meetings throughout the year to get your continued education hours, and then taking an online course. So like we have with this course. It's 10 weeks, 3 hours for each week. And so this would count as a total of 30 hours. And so it's a really great way to get all your continued education with this one course. Next is education outreach. So this means that you're giving a presentation, you're writing articles, maybe for your local newsletter, for your club, or the Texas Beekeeper Journal, or maybe you're writing an article for Bee Culture or the American Bee Journal. These also include recorded videos. And so if you have a social media page or you're running the social media page for your club and you make a 15-minute video or a 30-minute video or an hour video, these are all count as education and outreach credits. But these activities really allow you to share your knowledge with other beekeepers, whether that's, in your local club or whether that's across the state of Texas. And one thing with this is we're going to account for preparation and travel time. with these hours. So, for example, if you're giving an hour talk, but it takes you maybe 30 minutes to prep that talk and another 30 minutes of travel for that, instead of just getting one volunteer hour, you get two because you're counting in preparation and travel time. And this is really up to the discretion of the beekeeper. It really depends on how long it takes you to prepare your presentation and how long it takes you to travel to that said location. So these are different, I guess, options, right? So giving a presentation to a B group, and so if you're going to a local club, for example, giving a presentation, this would count as continued education. If you're presenting a bee-related lecture workshop to a non-beekeeping group, so maybe you're going to your local 4-H club or FFA club or Boy Scouts, or maybe something to a group where they're not beekeepers, but you're educating them about bees and pollinators, this would all count as continued education. Maybe you're writing a newsletter article, for example, for the TBA journal. This would all count as continued education. And one thing with this too, just make sure you count for your prep time for writing this article. Maybe you're hosting a beekeeping workshop. So, a lot of clubs have these workshops, whether they're beekeeping 101 or maybe advanced topics such as queen rearing and maybe some queen breeding. If you're hosting these workshops and you're doing maybe a 4-hour workshop, this would count as 4 hours plus any prep time that takes you to prepare for that workshop. Let's say you're recording or uploading an educational video. So if you're making a 15-minute video, a 30-minute video, an hour, maybe a 4-hour video, this would all count as continuing education. If you're giving a public demonstration on beekeeping, such as at a fair, a festival, or some kind of public event, so maybe you have an observation colony set up, or maybe you have a bee yard at a local park, and you're giving some sort of demonstration to a group. This will all count as outreach and education. And then you're teaching hands-on beekeeping skills will also count. Then service. So service is the third category. This means that you're contributing to the beekeeping community. So this includes that you're volunteering at events. And so let's say your local club has some sort of workshop and you're volunteering, that would count. Maybe you're volunteering at one of the bee schools or the bee associations or a local club. This will all count under service. Let's say you're on one of the committees. So let's say your local club has a board, for example, and you serve on the board. Every time you meet for that board or meet on that committee, that would count as a service hour. So if you are on 5 committee meetings throughout the year and they're an hour each, you get 5 hours for that. And even if you help out with a bee rescue or a bee removal, these would all count. But they have to be free and volunteer. You can't get paid for any type of bee rescue, bee removal, and so on. Service can also include any advocacy work. And so if you're going to the local CAT office and advocating and providing information about bees and beekeeping, that would count. Or maybe you're writing an article or talking to people about advocating for honeybees and pollinators. These will all count under service. And one thing I'll mention about all these different categories, I'm trying to list as much as possible, but if you're unsure if something qualifies, you're not sure if it does qualify or not, you can please let us know and we can bring it up to the board to get approval. Because I'm trying to list as much as possible, but there's probably some things I'm missing. So these are all examples of service. So if you're volunteering at a bee booth, and so, I know we have our East Texas Fair here in Tyler, Texas, and they're always asking for volunteers to volunteer at the booth. And so if you're volunteering at a booth, whether at the regional meeting or maybe the state meeting, for example, you can get credits for that. If you hold an office at a local bee association, so maybe you're on the education committee, or maybe you're on the social media committee, or maybe you're serving on an office for the Texas Beekeeper, the Master Beekeeper Association, these will all count as service hours. Maybe you're being appointed by county extension office or municipal agency as an expert contact for bee-related issues. So maybe people are contacting you or asking you questions about bee removals or swarming events, right? Or maybe you're going to the CAT office to provide information or education about bees and beekeeping. These will all count under service. If you're assisting members of a youth organization, so 4-H, Scouts, FFA, any type of youth organization, and maybe you're doing sort of a project with them, or maybe you're giving a talk about bees and beekeeping, this will all count under service. If you're mentoring a new beekeeper, so if you're participating in Heroes and you're mentoring a beekeeper, this will all count under service. And one thing I like about this new hour model is, let's say you work with a beekeeper for 10 hours throughout the year, you get credit for all those hours. So instead of just one credit, you can count how many hours you actually invest into mentoring a new beekeeper. Let's say you provide hives of beehives to pollinate a public garden. This would count as service hours, so you can track how much time you take to go out to the bee yard to take care of the colonies. And so maybe you go out to the colony 8 times throughout the year to do hive inspections for about 30 minutes to an hour. You can count how much time it takes you to not only travel to the bee yard, but also to take care of the bee colonies. This also includes maintaining observation colonies. So maybe you're working with a local museum or a zoo or at a school, for example, and you maintain the observation colony. That would all count as service hours. Maybe you're collaborating on a research or field trial. So, for example, I'm doing this kind of pollen map study across the state of Texas, and the county agents are working with a local beekeeper in their county to collect pollen samples for me. And so, if you're contributing to a citizen science projects like that, and you're collecting data and working with a university or some sort of agency, that all count as service hours. So maybe you're also doing performing or helping with a bee removal. So whether you're going out with an expert or whether you're doing your own bee removal for free, this will all count as service. And then any type of bee advocacy. And like I said, there's definitely a lot of different things that can fall under service. So these are going to be the new hours, and like I said, you guys are all kind of grandfathered into the old system, and so you can either transition to this new hour system or you can use the old system. So we'll have a total hours required hours of 30 to get for the advanced level. And this includes at least 10 hours for continuing education, at least 10 hours for outreach and education, and then 5 hours for service. And then flexible basically means that you can get 5 hours in any of these categories. Now, for you guys, it won't take that long to get these hours, I don't think. So for continuing education, if you attend all your local bee clubs, right? And they're maybe an hour to an hour and a half each, or maybe you're going to the state meeting or the summer clinic. It shouldn't take you that long to get these 10 hours. So if you go to the state TBA meeting in Waco this fall, then and you attend maybe 10 sessions, you can get all your 10 hours that way. Outreach and education. And so 10 hours would mean you're giving a bee talk, maybe to a local club or maybe to a non-beekeeper group. Maybe you're doing some sort of education, so running a demonstration or you're maintaining an observation colony, you need 10 hours for that. And then service. So, service should be pretty easy to get. So maybe you can volunteer at the state the state fair, for example. You can get your 5 hours that way by volunteering for maybe multiple days or one day for 5 hours. Or maybe you're already serving on a committee or some sort of a board on your local meeting, and then 5 hours for everything else. And if you decide to go to the next level, the master level, the total required hours will be 50 hours. And so that means 15 hours for continuing education, 15 for outreach and education, 10 hours for service, and then 10 flexible hours. And then Master Craftsman, the total required hours will be 75, and so 20 for continuing education, 25 for outreach and education, 15 for service, and then 15 flexible hours. And so, I mean, by the time if you do decide to go to your Master Craftsman or Master level, you're probably pretty heavily involved with either the state organizations, maybe the national organization. And so, if you're heavily involved with the beekeeping community, some of these will be pretty easy to get. And like I say with any of these hours, if you're ever looking for hours, I get contacted by county agents all the time for looking for volunteers or beekeepers trying to get their volunteer hours. And so if you're not getting your hours and you need some more support, please let me know and I'm happy to help you find something. And I would also just contact your local county agent. Just so they know they have a beekeeper contact that they can maybe throw questions at or have somebody come and give an expert talk. Just reach out to your county agent because they can be a really great resource and have a lot of these opportunities available. Okay, perfect. Before I get into the mentoring, I do want to share the new tracking module. Let's share this quick. Okay, so this is a really great opportunity to talk about the tracking module, and some of you have already started entering your volunteer hours, and we're actually going to modify that within the tracking module, and so this is something that we're working on, and we're going to make it similar to the Master Gardener program, where you can actually see how many hours you're putting in. It's gonna be easier to track all your hours and see how many hours are required. Now, as for now, this is what this is kind of the system that we'll be working with. And so, but really by the end of the year, we should have our full system developed. But we're working with someone who's an expert at web design to help us with the design and find easier ways to track the public service hours. The one issue with this is it's kind of constricted because this is really developed for just a course. We're hoping to add a way to track your hours and see how many hours you have. You can also print out reports and see all the things that you've done throughout your whole time in this entire program. But yeah, I can send you a link if you haven't signed up for the tracking module already. It is a requirement of the program. It's $10 per year, so it's not a crazy amount, but it's more for us to maintain the website and maintain everything regarding the program. And so this is what it should look like on the face of it. And so, this kind of video explains the entire program. But there's also different levels, and so for each level, you're I mean, some of you are probably on to apprentice level. So if you sign up for this program and you're an apprentice, we can move you up to advanced because we have to hand move or manually move everybody to each level that they're in. And so if you're only seeing the apprentice level, please let us know and we can move you up because you have to manually move everybody up. But let's say we go to apprentice level, for example. It shows all the requirements for each level, and so one of the levels, the new requirements for the apprentice level is a beekeeping introduction course. Now we do have the 10-week course of the apprentice level, and so that would qualify as a beekeeping course. But if a beekeeper is taking the beekeeping 101 course or any equivalent introductory course by their local club, this will all count as a beekeeping introduction course. And then we have information about the written exam and the practical exam. And then we'll also show all the questions and results from the exam. So you can go back and look back and see how you did in the exam, maybe some questions you got wrong, and you can kind of do some more reading and gain more information about those certain questions you got wrong. And we also have a checklist. This is just helps you kind of keep track of everything. So, for example, let's say you already have a year beekeeping experience. You can go here and just check that. Let's say you've taken the introductory course. You can go back there and check that. And then afterwards, you can go back and say, okay, I've taken my written exam, my practical exam, and so I'm ready to go. And then once you finish all this check, that sends us a notification, and then we can move you up to the next level. Now I'm gonna go to the advanced level because that's where everybody's at for this course. So you can go to the advanced level, and this kind of walks you through everything. Now, I will say that we'll eventually be taking these quizzes off because you're taking quizzes continuously throughout this course, so that'll qualify for all the quizzes. But these are all the old quizzes that we had on the website. Now, all the modules are currently on the website still, so you have to watch the modules on the website and then take the quiz on here. The only reason for that is because we need to get approval for having those videos on the tracking module, so we're working on that. But let's say that you want to take your Africanized honeybee quiz. You can go right here and you can say start quiz to take that quiz, or the pesticide module, or the pest module, and all these other modules here. This kind of walks you through on the public service credits. And so this is currently the old system, and it'll be kind of a slow transition to the new system. So this kind of walks you about what each credit is. And so, for example, like the old system, if you decide to stay with the old system for now, since you grandfathered in, is, for example, if you present a bee-related lecture workshop to a non-beekeeping group or a beekeeping group, this would count as one credit. Hold an office at a local bee association would count as one credit, and so on. But like I said, one reason that we're switching to an hour system is because some of these things might take longer than other things. So if you hold an office at a local bee association, that could take you maybe 8 or 10 hours of your time in one given year. Whereas a bee related lecture could be 1 hour. And so I think it'll make it more equitable across all these and make a lot more sense. And so yeah, like I said, you can go over here and go to your requirements and you can check, I was apprentice for at least 1 year, so let's check. I completed all the honeybee training modules, so the pesticide module, the pest disease module, and so on. And then once you decide to take your exam, you can say, okay, I passed my written exam. I passed my practical exam, and then I got my 10 public service credits, for example, which is the old system, and you click that. And then once we get that notification, we can go back and make sure that you complete everything. And if you didn't, we can send you a notification to help you finish everything. Now, maybe you're interested. So actually, let me go back. Let's say you want to submit a public service credit, so you can go right here and it says take the quiz. So the way we had to this up was we had to make each credit a quiz because there's no way to personalize service hours or credits on this system. And so we had to make it a quiz. We had the option of doing like a survey, like a quality survey or a quiz, but quiz has made a lot more sense. So you can take the quiz, and for that quiz, you basically enter um, well, maybe Heather's on the call. She can kind of walk you because I'm always seeing the learner view. But there's a quiz here and asks you the date of the event, how many hours the event was, how many people attended the event, all these different things, and then you submit that, and then you can go back and see what you've done. So, for example, if you want to see everything you've done, you can go to quizzes and go to advanced service credits, and it'll give you kind of a detailed list of everything you've done. So you can go to this, you can go to submissions. And I haven't taken an attempt yet for this, but each time they'll have attempt one all the way to how many attempts you had. So you can click on that and see what credits you have. But really for now, once you modify this and this, it'll make it a lot clearer once we kind of finish developing this. It'll probably take us a few months for the person to develop it. But as for right now, if you want to submit all your credits through this is a really great route. But once you have that system, it's going to make a lot more sense than what we currently have. But this is kind of what we have now. And, you can also write it. We do have a form online that you can keep track of all your credits. And that might be an easier thing to do for now until we finish developing this entire program. Okay, perfect. And then eventually, all the 10-week course from this will go onto this tracking module. And so you have access to the course, all the read materials, everything on this this program tracking module. And so eventually we'll have everything on here. And so you can go to your courses and you can take some of these courses. Let's see, I think it's home actually. So you can have all your courses. So eventually, we have a Beekeeping 101 course, but we'll have our different courses on here, like our 10-week advanced course. And so you can click on that and take that course directly online. And so I know it's been kind of a pain for some people working with the Google Classroom, but eventually everything's be on this AgriLife. And so we won't have any issues. We haven't had any issue with emails going to this course. And so going into next year, we'll have everything on this tracking module. So I think it'll make it really a lot easier. One thing I like about this is the discussion board. And so we have a discussion board for each level of the program. So the apprentice, advanced, and master. And we already have quite a few comments. So for the advanced level, for example, we have kind of 11 posts. And so you go on here and you see that we have introductory posts. So you have a lot of people kind of introduce themselves, talking about themselves. And then this is a great opportunity for you to ask questions. So moving up. So this person asked a question about moving up in the program. And so this person had a question about, being new to the program and, so on. And so it's a great opportunity to communicate and talk to other beekeepers that are in the program. We also have different ones for each region. And so we split these discussion chats by the region in 6 different regions. And so let's say you're located near Tyler, Texas, where I'm at. You'd be in region one. Another great way to connect with all the beekeepers in your region. Maybe you live in West Texas in Odessa or maybe El Paso. You can connect to other beekeepers in the area. So it's a really great way to connect other beekeepers in the program. As you see, for some reason, we have a lot more chats. But if you want to communicate with other beekeepers, this is a really great source. So for region one, we have a lot of people have we have 3 chats already or posts. So you can go to this is Region 1 Introductions, go to Unread, and you can see kind of the talks or communications we've had. So like I said, this is kind of a work in progress. And so this is we kind of launched this in November, December, so we're working on how to do the public service hours better. And there wasn't really a great way to do this. And so once we have that fully developed, we'll have a full program to walk you through how to do that. So before we get to mentoring communications, are there any questions? So Doug said, do you have to have pictures or names of participants? Yeah, so with the quiz, there's a way to attach any pictures of what you're doing. And so yeah, you can definitely add pictures, which I do recommend because then we can take that and we can make posts on social media. Okay, so Lee said, I'm working on becoming a master gardener, and they have a website that you enter your hours. Do you have the same sort of system? Exactly. Yeah, so Lee, so the same person that developed the master gardener website, the same person that developed the master naturalist, we're working with that exact same person to develop one for the master beekeeping program. And so if you're part of the master gardener program, you know how easily and how great that program is. And so we'll have that finished probably in the next few months or so, and that'll make it a lot easier to track all your hours. VK, you have a question?
Dr. Seda, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, so I think the number of hours works for me better than the credits, at least for this year. I've spent over 100 hours building a community apiary here. I've stood on the boat and all those things. So I think in the presentation you said that I'm grandfathered into the credit system, but you also mentioned maybe I can use the hours. Um,
Yes, yep, you can. Yeah. So I just want to give every opportunity because some people might be kind of finished with their advanced level and so they can use the credits. But if you want to switch to an hour system, we'll eventually kind of slowly transition that, but I don't want to take away from anything that people have done already. And honestly, the credits will be pretty much the same as the hours, so it won't change anything. I just think it makes more sense.
Okay, so the tracking module you have right now, it's for credits,
Yeah.
but you want me to keep my hours and track offline on my own until it's ready to be uploaded onto the tracking system?
That's a good question. Yeah, just keep a track of your hours right now, and I think after this we'll go back and add hours to it because I don't think we've added hours yet. And so just keep track of it for now, and then go back in and add your hours. We're hoping to have everything kind of finished in the next 3 to 4 months now that we finalize the hour system.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Dan said, where do we send our $10 for the tracking module? Yeah, I'll send you the link and you just sign up for it. Um, and so if Heather's here, she can attach the link. Shayna, I have a question about the material that is available from week one. It says that some of the material have been removed by the owner, and so we don't have access to it anymore so that we can use it to study for the test in June. Is that because the material has been moved to the tracking module? Are you referring to the quiz, the quizzes? Because all the material should be on the website still. We just moved all the quizzes to the tracking module.
It's been a couple weeks since I've done that or looked at it, and so I will need to go back and check. But
Okay.
like I was trying to access some of it, and it said that the owner had removed it, and so I was like, "Oh no, what's going on? What am I missing or something?" So
Yeah, if you want to
I'll
send
go,
me some, yeah, send me
yeah.
some information. We can go back. So maybe some things were removed for some reason, or maybe moved to track module. But we try to make sure everything's still on the website because this is kind of a slow transition. And so if there's something that you
Hmm.
can't get on the website, we can add that and keep it there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Doug said I mentor three mentees as a group mostly. Yeah, so I mean, if you have three mentees, for example, and you're doing separate mentoring and you're spending, separate hours for each one, you can count all those hours. But if you do kind of a group setting, and let's say you spend, 2, 3 hours with a group of beekeepers, then that only counts 3 hours. But if you're mentoring three beekeepers individually and you're spending 3 hours with each one, that would count as 9 hours, for example. So it just depends on how much time you put into mentoring. So, if you put 3 hours in, you get 3 hours. If you put 10 hours, you get 10 hours. So it's kind of depends on how much time you put into it. And Doug, you can also mention like any phone calls, any Zoom calls, all that counts. Maybe you have kind of a dinner or lunch. Okay, so either just attach the link for the tracking module. Okay, so Doug also said taking an observation hive to a fair. Yeah, for sure. That would all count under service. And so if you're an observation colony, you're taking it there, that all counts. Or maybe you're just traveling there and giving it to a beekeeper at their booth. So let's say you set up the observation colony and you travel that an hour away to wherever the event is. That would all count as some sort of service. And so you don't necessarily serve at the booth, but if you're, getting things set up, that would all count. Okay, any other questions on the hours? And like I said, yeah, we'll kind of with VK's question, we'll add the hours to that list. We'll also add maybe a category whether it falls under service, continued education, and the final category. Okay, do we enter the apprentice certification in our credit hours? Yeah, so don't worry about me. You guys are all past the apprentice level and currently the advanced level, so I wouldn't worry about entering any of the data for the apprentice level. As people kind of start the program, they'll be entering it slowly over time. But if you sign up for the course today, we can automatically move you to the advanced. I wouldn't worry too much about the apprentice level. We can always go back, or you guys can go back and add your certification if you want to, or we can go back and add your quizzes and things like that. But I wouldn't worry too much about that. Okay, perfect. And like I said, I try to make a list of everything, but there's probably some things I'm missing. And so if there's something I'm missing on that list, and I actually sent the reading material, it's all in the Google Classroom, the Google Drive. So you can take a look at that. And maybe I'm missing something that I want to add before we actually publish our handbook. And so maybe take a look at that. And that includes all the information about the new hour system. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to share the second half of my presentation. Okay, so well, first we'll talk about mentoring, and so a lot of you are already mentors or currently mentoring a beekeeper, or maybe you want to join Hives for Heroes to find a mentee to mentor. And so mentoring is a really important part of beekeeping. And so, many clubs already have structured mentoring programs that connect experienced beekeepers with new beekeepers. And so, if you are looking into mentoring, finding a local club and contacting a local club is really the best route. And, from my experience, a lot of new beekeepers come to local clubs when they start getting bees, and a lot of them are looking for mentors to help them out, especially during their first year. And so maybe they're getting bees their first year, or maybe they just want to work with a beekeeper during their first year to see if beekeeping's for them. A local club is the best way to find any mentors to mentor. And if your club doesn't have a mentoring program, consider organizing one. That would all fall under service to the program. And so you can organize a mentoring program and start it up. Now, one thing I really enjoyed about Texas is really how strong the local clubs are. A lot of them already have kind of youth programs in the morning or before the session. And so if your club doesn't have some youth program or a new beekeeper program before the actual club meeting, you can consider organizing one, and that's a great way to not only get you volunteer hours, but also mentor new beekeepers that um, may normally um, normally not become beekeepers. And so, and like kind of what Charlie mentioned, we want people to be beekeepers, not bee havers. And if you're not getting the right mentoring, and I think a lot of people are joining this course, the apprentice course especially, to learn more about keeping bees. But the best way to really learn and really implement this information management is by working with a mentor, actually get into the colonies to become really a better beekeeper. Okay, so mentoring clubs. So one thing you can do is maybe create a mentor database. And so, maybe as new people are coming to the club, maybe they come to the meeting for the first time, you can collect their information and see if they're interested in being connected with a mentor. Or you can work with the Hives for Heroes database to connect yourself with a mentee. But if you're a local club, it might be worthwhile developing a database to maybe connect a mentor to a mentee. And then you can begin recruiting mentees. So you can work with the local county agent. I'm sure they'd be willing to share information or have information. Because one thing about county agents is they have a lot of people that come to the county agent for information, especially related to beekeeping. But if they have like a list or some way to be connected to a mentor, that's a really great way to recruit and find new mentees. And then you can find ways to pair mentors with mentees. And so Hive Star Heroes are already doing that. But if your local club wants to do sort of a similar model and connecting mentees to mentors, you can set up some sort of system. And then you want to set up a system to facilitate check-ins. And so you can either do it sort of one-to-one mentor to mentee relationship, or maybe you can set up open apiary sessions. So if your club has a apiary, like a mentoring or training apiary, you can set up events once a month to have new beekeepers come in and learn from an experienced beekeeper. And so I'm working with quite a few clubs across the state to set up these mentoring apiaries. And what I wanted to do is really find an opportunity for beekeepers to, find experienced beekeeper and learn from them. Because the best way to learn about keeping bees is to work with experienced beekeepers, actually dig into the colony and, do this maybe once a month because, bees and beekeeping will change from, now in March all the way into July. Now, if you want to set up if you're maybe setting up a one-to-one mentor to mentee relationship, one thing you want to consider is be really patient and be really open to answering questions, whether that's remotely via email, phone, or text message. For me, I get a lot of questions, a lot of messages, and a lot of calls, and so I try to be there as a resource. But you want to have some way to be available to them because, they're definitely have a lot of questions. And it's be really important to be available to them to answer any of those questions so they can learn more and then keep coming back to whether local club or get experience or information from an experienced beekeeper. You may want to conduct a in-person hive inspection with the mentee. So if they already have their own colonies, maybe consider going out to their bee yard, maybe not once every month, but maybe every couple months to show them how to do a hive inspection, how to look for signs of a failing queen, how to extract the honey, everything that goes involved with hive inspection. And you can definitely send them the video from this course to them about how to do a hive inspection, but maybe going with them to show them how to do it the first way is a really great opportunity. And then demonstrating key beekeeping practices. So, don't be afraid to go out there and show them how to mix sugar feed or how to feed your colonies. Don't be afraid to show them how to, pull honey and extract honey. Because the best way to learn is through hands-on, demonstrated learning. But so here's some kind of best practice for mentoring. So the best thing is hands-on learning. So whether you're taking that beekeeper out to your yard, whether you're going out to their yard, or whether you're club setting or up a mentoring apiary, the best way to learn is really hands-on learning. And even for the apprentice course, we have a lot of people that are getting bees or think about getting bees. And I cover as much as I can over 10 weeks. But there's a lot of things that you can learn actually being out in the field. So this hands-on learning is extremely important. And encourage critical thinking. So, for me, I can talk about the anatomy of a bee. I can talk about how to do a hive inspection, but you want people to try to figure out how to problem solve. And so encourage that critical thinking. So maybe ask them questions to see if they can kind of walk through the scenario through their head and try to come up with an answer to that. And so maybe ask them, like if you're doing a hive inspection, like, hey, why would this brood pattern be really spotty? And have that mentee come up with the answers. And if they're not sure about it, you can help them answer it, but it helps them kind of critically think about that problem and maybe troubleshoot it. Because as they continue their beekeeping journey, they're going to have to critically think about what the problem is. And so this is a really great way. And then maybe set goals. So maybe set goals of, setting up hive inspections or set goals of attending certain clubs. Maybe set goals for attending the Master Beacon program. Because if people maybe have clear objectives, they're going to be more willing to do their monthly hive inspection, or maybe they're going to be doing more of the mite monitoring. And then really lead by example. So, if you're gonna if you're gonna show them a certain beekeeping technique or management practice, you want to show them how to do it and then lead by example. You don't want to do something that's not recommended. So, like treatments, for example, if you're not applying the treatment properly, then they're not going to apply the treatment properly, and they might have high mite levels and have some issues. And you always want to make sure to follow up and make sure that they're doing it. So if you're setting goals for them to inspect once a month, make sure to check in on them and make sure that they're actually inspecting once a month. If your goals are for them to do a mite wash once a month, make sure that they're doing it. And then just providing unbiased information. There's definitely a lot of information out there, but you want to stick to kind of proven practices. You want to acknowledge different approaches. So especially with beekeeping, there's a lot of different ways to do it, and there's not necessarily a wrong way of doing it, but maybe kind of walk them through how to do it. And so I talked about kind of splitting colonies, and there's a lot of different ways to split a colony. And so maybe walk by, hey, maybe this is the way I split my colonies, but these are different ways of doing it. So I do a traditional split, but maybe you want to do an overnight split, or maybe you want to do a vertical split, or maybe a swarm split, and we kind of walk them through different approaches. Same with queen rearing. So if you want to walk them through how to raise queens, we say, hey, this is how I do it, but these are different ways to do it because what works for you may not work for them. And so at least they have different approaches and different strategies for doing whatever they want to do. And then just try to discourage any misinformation. And then when you're presenting information, so whether you're doing a club to new beekeepers or whether you're mentoring one-on-one, the one thing I always say is just try to be patient because, for you, it maybe seem obvious, or maybe it's really quick for you to do a hive inspection. But for people that have never done this before, it can take them a lot longer. So last week I was in Alabama teaching an instrumental insemination course, and I have, years and years of experience. So for me to actually do the semen collection and inseminate the queen, I'm pretty quick at it. But for them to first learn how to use a microscope for some people, or learn how to pop a drone or vert a drone, or for them to learn how to extract the semen, that can take a long time for them to learn about it. And what's really important is to be really patient and don't just try to, hey, you're doing it wrong, so I'm gonna jump in and do it. Just be patient, let them kind of work through it, and over time, it'll definitely pay off because they'll gain that experience and they'll get quicker and quicker and maybe be at the level that you are. Always use kind of visual aids. So visual pictures are a really great way. So when I teach diseases and pathogens and things like that, I use pictures to help kind of show what I'm talking about. Because sometimes there may be things in your colony or their colonies that are kind of tougher to explain, but for me, visual aids are the best way to kind of show some of these things. And if you don't have any pictures or any visual aids, you can feel free to reach out to me. All these presentations are open for you to use in your presentations or to show to beekeepers. Like I said, we'll have those removable frames with the pictures on it. And so we'll be sending that to everybody here shortly. And so that's a really great way to kind of show maybe what a queen bee looks like or show them what a disease looks like. And then maybe demonstrate first and then observe. So maybe you're teaching a beekeeper how to do queen rearing. Show them how you set up your cell builder and you finish your colony, and then observe how they do it. And if they make a mistake, maybe point out like, oh, I do it this way and this way. And so at least they're getting the hands-on. They're critically thinking about how to do it, and then you can go back and help them make changes. And then really encourage questions. So, you know, definitely with a new beekeeper, so maybe you're selling Nooks to a new beekeeper or mentoring a new beekeeper, they're going to have a lot of questions. And there's no such thing as a stupid question because in their mind, they don't have the experience, and this seems like a very logical question to them. So just encourage as many questions as possible because as they get more experience and start critically thinking more about keeping bees, those questions will dwindle down. But, especially in the beginning, there's going to be a lot of questions. And then break up information into manageable pieces. So maybe you want to yeah, here's an example. So let's say you're doing queen rearing or show them how to do queen rearing. Don't show them the whole process at one time. Maybe start with this day we'll talk about how to graft and how to graft into cells. And then maybe next day we'll talk to them about how to make a cell builder. And then next day maybe finish a colony. So it's not all at once. You teach them in kind of a smaller implement, many pieces, and it's more manageable for them to take in that information. Okay, so with the course and with the volunteer hours, you'll probably be giving quite a few presentations. And so here's this kind of general communication tips. And so for me, these are things that I'm always working on. I'm not the best at public speaking, but over time I've tried to kind of learn some of these tips to make my conversations, my presentations, more impactful and clearer to whoever I'm speaking to. But what I always say is just kind of be clear and concise. So one thing, especially as beekeepers, we have a lot of terms. So we say, we put supers on the colonies, or we run double deeps, or, these are drones, which are males. And a lot of people that maybe haven't been taking the course or haven't been beekeepers for a long time may not know what those terms are. So you want to be clear about what you're talking about and always explain what those terms mean. So you're talking about super and colony, talk about what a super is, what it means, and how it relates to a beekeeper. But with any conversation, you want to be as clear and concise as possible. So you want to be straightforward. And then just sort of engage with your audience. And so try to kind of look everybody in the eye in the room and try to engage with every person in the room and try to be engaging as possible. And then listen very actively. And so, especially with a lot of presentations, people will ask a lot of questions. And so just take as many questions as possible and answer them to the best of your ability. And if you don't know, that's okay. Just say that I don't know, and I'll try to get more information later on because nobody's an expert. Even for me, I get a lot of questions and I don't know the answers to, and so I have to look that up and just, be there as a resource. And if you don't know something, you can reach out to me or find it on Google Scholar. So just general communication tips. So know your audience. And so each audience is going to be a little different. So, I've spoken to quite a few clubs, and some clubs have 80% of their members are experienced beekeepers that have been keeping bees for 5 years. And so the way I talk to them is going to be different than if I'm speaking to a group of a bunch of beekeepers that are getting the bees for the first time in April or May. And so I'm talking to them about things a little differently because they may not know the terms and may need me to explain things in a bit more detail versus an advanced beekeeper or an experienced beekeeper, I'm gonna talk to them differently. But even if you're talking to kids, kids can be really different. So maybe if you're talking to elementary kids versus middle school kids versus high school kids, the way you give your presentations are going to differ. Always use visual aids, and one thing I always say is the best way to, I mean, 80% of a good presentation is the visuals and how the presentation looks. So if you have really great pictures and you don't have a lot of words on your presentation, that's the best way to teach whoever your audience is. And so I always like to have as many pictures as possible and less wording as possible because if you're giving a whole hour presentation, people don't want to read all the text you have on your presentation. They want to look at pictures and then you can describe what the picture looks like. So, for me, I try to use the least amount of words as possible and try to focus on having pictures. And like I said, if you are looking for pictures, we have a whole database of pictures for everything related to beekeeping. So you're more than welcome to use those pictures and then really try to tell a story. So if you are talking about some sort of situation, so maybe queen rearing that went bad, maybe tell a story about what happened and what went wrong, because people really gravitate to storytelling. Or maybe you want to begin your presentation with just telling your story about how you got into keeping bees. So people just want to kind of find a way to relate to you. Make sure to address any common myths. And so th if there's a myth that more people kind of view widespread as the truth, maybe address those common myths. And then really encourage questions. So you can almost split up your presentation in different sections. Say, hey, does anybody have any questions on this? Or maybe ask them a question. Say, hey, what do people think about this? Or maybe do a quick quiz. So if you're talking about hive inspections, you can pull up a picture of a colony and say how many frames of bees this is. And that's to encourage discussion and encourage questions. And then always stay up to date on your presentations. So, each time I give a presentation, I do a full review because things can change. So if you have a presentation from 10, 15 years ago, make sure you go through that presentation and make any changes as the information becomes updated and more relevant. And then one thing I always do is I practice my delivery, my talk. And so if you're giving a talk, maybe you want to spend an hour or 2 hours just presenting in front of a mirror or going through it, just so you make sure that you're hitting all the points, maybe not rambling, and being as clear and concise as possible. One thing you can do is use demonstrations. So if you're speaking to a youth group or a school or FFA, definitely bring some kind of visual aid or bring hive equipment or bring a bee suit, just so you can bring the kids up to kind of hold the hive tool, maybe inspect the colony. Because especially with kids, they want to have more of the hands-on stuff instead of sitting there for an hour and listen to a talk. But even for a more experienced beekeeper group. So if you're talking about queen rearing, maybe bring your cell bars or bring a grafting tool or bring maybe a frame and show them how to actually do the grafting. Okay, perfect. Well, next week we're going to talk about honeybee plants, and so we're going to have Wizzy Brown, and she's talk about everything related to pollination, commercial pollination, and honeybee plants. And maybe if you're planning on planting a pollinator garden, we'll talk about different plants that you can grow that can benefit not only honeybees but also other pollinators and wasps and so on. So, are there any questions on mentoring and communication? Okay, perfect. Well, we will see you guys all next Tuesday from 9 to 12 talking about honeybee plants. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question,
Thank
Garrett,
you.
really fast?
Yes.
Yes, sorry. I had one in the chat. So I just was approached this week to coordinate between our local FFA program and a property owner. And they want to establish an FFA program for beekeeping. The individual has offered, he's purchased 8 hives and, of course, is using it for ag exemption, but he's like, hey, can we work with the kids to learn? And so I have, um, you know, told the ag teacher that I am more than happy to help work with this. So do you have any contacts or individuals or information to kind of coordinate for FFA to help, put this into a really good start?
Yeah. Yeah, one thing we're working on is a junior master beekeeping program, and so I'm hoping this can be a
Mhm.
guideline that FFA and 4-H can use. I can connect you with some FFA programs that are already related to beekeeping. So I know in Hawkins, which is close
Yeah.
to Tyler, Texas, they already have a program, and I'm sure there's
hmm
a lot of other programs across the state. Uh, which county are you in, and what
I'm in
city are you
Parker
close to?
County. I'm in Parker
Parker.
County, and we are west of Weatherford, Texas, in a little town called Brock.
Okay, perfect. Yeah,
hmm
I could. I'll send you an email afterwards, and I'll try to maybe connect you with that egg program that's already doing honeybees or
Okay.
even beekeeping.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Thank you so
So,
much.
did you know that there is a high school credit for beekeeping? You can Google Google TSA. I think I'll Google it and send it to Garrett because
TSA?
Okay.
there you can. No, no, it's not coming to me right now, but
Okay.
there's a
I do.
whole. Go ahead.
I do know that the FFA advisor had said that there was a B class that, then he could actually teach it within his class.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think that just, of course, takes time that he has to um,
Well,
to
I know
start that.
there's a curriculum online already, so I
Okay.
can I can find that for you
Jody, are
and
you
send it to
talking
you.
about TEA?
Yes, TEA
Yeah,
beekeeping credit,
Texas
something like that.
Education Agency. Yeah.
Yeah, you ought to find it that way. If you Google it,
Okay.
it's a PDF file, and it
Oh,
gives
I
you
see
all
it.
the. There you go. So that
hmm
that would be a really good thing to incorporate, and eventually, maybe if you got high school kids, they could get credit for it because you're following the same agenda.
hmm Absolutely. Okay, I do see it. That would be awesome to implement and, give kids that opportunity, especially as, have it part of the FFA program. So, yeah.
Yeah, and one thing that the Path to Play program is working on is some of these like boxes that schools can buy, and they come with like
hmm
a whole curriculum. They come with like demonstrations within the box that they can use, and they have the developer
Oh,
content already, and they have a bunch of things that the teacher can use throughout the entire year. And so we're hoping to develop that for honeybees. So hopefully by the end of the year we'll have kind of a beekeeping honey box with a curriculum that
hmm
follows the guidelines of the Texas school systems, but also the junior master beacon program. I think would be a really great fit to help guide them on their way.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. That would be awesome.
Perfect, great question.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you everyone, and we'll have everything uploaded as soon as possible. So if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you.
Thanks. This was a good one.